Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook with Dwayne Bessie at Bolt Marketing, and we're seeing a lot of green on the board this morning, with the exception of soybeans, which have been back and forth, seeing a little two-sided trade. Dwayne, let's talk about the grains. We had kind of some consolidation in corn and soybeans the last couple of days, but are the funds back in buying, at least in the corn market, do you think?
It seemed like that 6:30 time frame came in again, and they started buying this morning, didn't it? Which always kind of impresses me, or frustrates me, because I sent out my commentary about between 6 and 6:30, and I've kind of got my comments out for the day, and then all of a sudden funds come in and start buying. But yesterday it seemed like they did pause a little bit. It seems like they really want to be long the corn market. Soybeans, I'm surprised they got out of all their shorts, right? I don't think they really want to just go record long the soybean market here, Michelle. I mean, the fundamentals really don't support it. But as of right now, they're still buying the corn market. Yes.
Yeah, and then we ran up into some chart resistance, couldn't get through it, so probably a little profit taking set in the last couple of days. So we'll see if they continue to try to take out that high. What are we watching? Is it for what 95 was kind of what stopped us out last week? Is that
It,
kind of where we're looking at? And soybeans, what? We hit our head on the 200-day moving average there, I think, didn't we?
you're exactly right. Yeah, for soybeans, we hit our head exactly on that 200-day moving average, and it really pulled back substantially since. That 200-day moving average right now is at 1074. And that was also a downward trend line that kind of came in right in about that same area. So technically, soybeans still look like they're in a bearish market here to me. Corn, I guess you could still say it's that $5 mark up above March that looks like it's just too much. I know we didn't even get that close to it, but yeah, 484 and a half today is kind of a big number for me. I mean, 486 and a half, I'm sorry. So we'll see technically. We're just in this spot right here where we don't have a lot of other news other than Trump news, which seems to be happening every 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, and of course, the tit for tat over the weekend with Colombia on tariffs seemed to throw a negative or cast a negative shadow on the grain market yesterday. And we're still kind of trading that news item by news item, aren't we? Because Mexico, we could see some tariffs by February 1st. That's Saturday.
Right, exactly. And I think that's a concern for the corn market and all those funds that are along the corn market. So maybe there was little profit taking yesterday, but surprisingly enough, yesterday morning, Mexico was in buying a little bit of corn from us. But yeah, obviously Mexico is our largest corn buyer by a long way. So that is a concern and an uncertainty for the corn market. And markets just don't like uncertainty.
No, plus it also increases the value of the dollar, which is a little bit price negative at times for the grains. The other thing we're watching, South American weather. They did get some rains over the weekend in Argentina, but was it enough to really help? And what's the forecast look like ahead here now?
Well, yeah, the rains over the weekend definitely weren't a drought buster by no means. They were maybe a band-aid a little bit for a little while. And this week's forecast, so the short-term forecast is actually a little drier this morning than I saw even yesterday. So I thought maybe that maybe supported the soybean market a little bit early this morning. But the extended forecast is quite a bit wetter, and the models are in agreement on how much and where. So that's a little interesting, but obviously, Michelle, take it with a grain of salt. Anytime you're talking a forecast, that's next week's forecast, not this week.
Right. I did see Dr. Cordonier did come down a little bit on his Argentina forecast for both corn and soybeans this morning.
Yeah, and I think rightfully so. And that might continue, even next week's rains. I don't know if they're drought busting rains, but I think he's dead on by lowering it 2 million metric ton as people come down. The problem is where's Brazil at? If they're above 170, I don't think it really matters.
No doubt. Let's talk about the cattle market, because we scored some new all-time highs yesterday in both live and feeder cattle futures, and then ended well off our highs in the live cattle, lower in the feeders. And so it looked a little toppy, but today we're back up at least, right?
I know. The $1 million question is where's the top in the cattle market, and it would make for a great show if I could actually tell you, but I can't. Now I will say yesterday's trade action, the way it came off, early highs, made me think like, wow, could this be a top? But the green trade so far today on the screen, the higher market tells me that it probably isn't yet. We're still inside trading days, obviously this morning as we're speaking anyway. But I don't know. This market seems very strong. The fundamentals are unbelievably strong, and I think you mentioned before that Packers are already picking up the cash cattle they bought last week, so that seems bullish to me. But I would like to point out to all the listeners out there, this market will top when the news is bullish. That's just the way it is. When corn went to $8, it was bullish when it turned two. So producers need to be ready and take risk management here.
Yeah, we usually put a spike top in the cattle market, that's for sure. The cash trade is going to be key here, though. And of course, last week, I think the 5 area weighted average 210.79. So we're still at a discount with even where the futures are trading, right?
Well, yeah, and that's a bit of a problem in the futures market. So if you're a producer, you don't even want to hedge on the board because you're like, we're at a $4 discount to cash, and if you're just a spec trader, you won't buy or sell it because you're just deathly afraid of the market. So it's making for, yeah, what I'm going to say is a volatile trade. There's not a ton of people in here moving this market volumes down a little bit more. So uh, interesting to say the least. And I've always got my eye on it, but it makes big jumps here and there. And we got to remember, funds are extremely long. They're about 40% of the open interest that's out there. That concerns me. No matter what I think about the cattle market, if the funds decide they want out, if they control that many of the contracts or own that many, it's just going to go down if they want to get out.
Right. And they're record long in the feeder market. And it looked like last week when we found out that the border was not reopened yet to Mexican feeders, they kind of doubled down almost.
They did. And when the funds get record long, everyone starts to think, oh, they got to get out, but they don't have to get out anytime soon. And records are meant to be broken. And you're right, they just continue to buy. And look at a feeder or live cattle chart. Why wouldn't they keep buying? Everything looks great. They keep making more money as it goes higher. And on that Mexican border, I'm really shocked it's not open yet. There's a lot of U.S. invested money in feedlots in Mexico. So I thought there would have been some arms being twisted to get this open and going. But obviously, it's a very slow process and just helps the U.S. producer.
Absolutely. And the hogs, are they following cattle? Is that kind of what's going on here?
I think so, but I think they got a fundamental story themselves that's a little friendly too. We've all heard about the disease pressure this winter in the barns here in the U.S. and the numbers just don't seem to be as high as what USDA was telling us before. So I think they maybe have put in a pretty decent load. Not to mention the fact that it is the cheaper protein source in the supermarket. So I think that'll put a bottom in and help this market as well.
Yeah, and exports are certainly helping us out in that regard. We just got to keep these Mexican tariffs away because Mexico's our number one pork customer, right?
Should be a very fun weekend, which I'm saying
Yeah.
what's going to happen on this Saturday. Yes.
Okay. We also have the Fed meeting starting today, going tomorrow. We're not expecting any change in terms of interest rates.
If anything, maybe a 1/4%, but that's going to be an interesting battle moving forward. I mean, President Trump yesterday said he demands interest rates to be lowered, but he actually can't really control that from what I understand. So, oh, it'll be fun to see the tug of war there too.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. Thanks so much, Dwayne Bussey with Volt Marketing. That is Markets Now.